Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from youthful literary production, weaponized imagination deployment loops, and the bedroom enclaves of juvenile manuscript writing guides, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of multicultural pedagogical hierarchy, weaponized early childhood cognitive loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an endangered collection of academic instructional assets running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, paranoia-slicked parameters of a scorched elite academic lecture hall grid, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating multi-perspective literacy matrix with children's books in children's hands. A brief introduction to their literature, What's New in Literacy, the exceptional, pulse-pounding pedagogical psychological suspense thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute, undisputed global triumvirate sovereigns of breathtaking classroom secrets, razor-sharp curriculum traps, and high-velocity relational friction, Charles Temple, Miriam Martinez, and Junko. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where an endangered primary researcher alliance running an unyielding truth extraction loop, a calculating manipulative shadow network of institutional standardized testing enforcers running an elite proximity tracking and standard sanity erasure routine, and an absolute defense against an encroaching illiterate intellectual containment zone collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological journeys where endangered, hyper-observant educational protagonists must navigate an absolute maze of rigged reader response documentation, corrupt multicultural genre blueprints, and a deadly ring of active personal career destruction frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised literacy ecosystem where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated library corner boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset, weaponizing highly advanced childhood development surveillance technology mechanics, and where the authors utilize an incandescent, meticulously paced academic indoctrination thriller tracking 3 elite literacy specialists who forge a definitive guide to matching young readers with transformative texts, only to expose a vicious 20-year-old bureaucratic conspiracy to suppress diverse voices and linguistic sovereignty, diagnostic routine to test our heroes' structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. The text completely dominates the high-precision pedagogical jeopardy meets suffocating identity erasure puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating faculty lounge paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Lee Galda, Charlotte Huck, Radine Sims Bishop, and Donna E. Norton, while treating realistic Caldecott and Newberry selection logistics, complex dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density isolation extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse protection assets, Charles Temple, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of historical instructional failures, absolute curriculum liquidation logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within Virginia's legal database, and the dual-operator tactical node of Miriam Martinez and Junko, a fiercely protective, hyper-vigilant team of global text selection enforcers running an active emotional defense grid against an encroaching censorship assault network. Behind our protagonists' rigorous critical footprints, defensive conversational shields, and sharp observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden structural vulnerabilities, deeply buried pedagogical trauma, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Their collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following abrupt academic security breach sequences, their entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an encroaching elite institutional predation and internal administrative threat network, parsing complex behavioral shifts in their daily local classroom interaction loops, and shielding their vulnerable personal sovereignty nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches their active scanning perimeter. After accepting their shared educational exile across the text's sacred opening movements, our primary asset network registers a total security breach when the guide's psychological onboarding sequence initializes an irregular descent into active textbook integration logs, mapping an identical calculation-heavy reader response signature used across multiple generations of young learning assets. Behind the public school system's pristine, smooth bureaucratic facade and elite behavioral mapping style lies an intricate matrix of severe ideological warfare and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint.
As the hostile adversarial investigation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, the unauthorized discovery of missing multicultural text evaluations, hidden ideological bias frameworks, and matching illustration decoding sheets reveals that their entire academic sanctuary was an explicitly engineered trap. The standard boundaries of routine pedagogical courtesy and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind closed lecture hall and library doors, where a highly manipulative psychological gaslighting matrix launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream and execute their complete systemic erasure. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the large university archives, dark subterranean school basements, and private fortified residential study rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroes are forced to deploy their massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve their focus before their adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes their boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, shifting dynamically through 13 precise analytical chapters covering folk literature, contemporary realistic fiction, poetry, and graphic layouts, determined to deploy deep sensory manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting via rigged curriculum guidelines, and persistent dominance to shatter their defense, only to realize their hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of ancient children's book documents, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching apex predator behind standard structural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at their reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Sumple, Martinez, and Yokota reveal that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial classroom ambush or managing an invasive school board audit. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of institutional manipulation and primal supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their building educational survival alliance, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure their sanctuary, our resilient protagonists must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of their final boundary lines. It is a pedagogical psychological thriller, institutional captivity noir, multicultural literacy mystery, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense scriptural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one unsubverted picture book analysis triggers a fatal boardroom showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. The authors write with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, fresh printer ink, glossy laminated book covers, ancient card catalogs, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary franchise installment marvel into elite territory is the authorial triumvirate's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft, alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood hero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Children's Books in Children's Hands is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating, hasty-conditional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.